Today I'm going to start with a hard truth, and that is that great teams are built, not hired. It is nearly impossible to fill a team initially with all rock stars. You're just not that good at drafting. It is far more likely that you're able to develop talent than it is for you to be able to sniff it out perfectly in the interview process, especially the more corporate your job is, where you may not even control that entire interview process. And good companies recognize this, and they may have that built in to actually part of your job description. At my old company, the job description that I had, and by the way, it was the best job description I've ever seen in the world, simply had 3 bullet points on it. That's the whole job description for a person who led 16 people. 3 bullet points. The number 1 bullet point on that list was to hire, train, develop, and retain world-class talent equal to or better than my own. That's an understanding your company might and maybe should have around how important talent development is to this entire equation. So how do you actually do that? Well, in today's episode of Leadership Unplugged, we're going to dive deep on how you develop talent that's world-class and equal to or better than yourself. Let's jump in. Welcome to Leadership Unplugged. We'll show you here what real leadership sounds like. We've got to start here with an underlying premise that can be difficult for a lot of leaders to understand. And that is that you want your people to be better than you. Say it another way, you want to be the worst performer of the thing that you do, your team does, on the team. Over time, you want everybody to be better at doing these things than you do, which means if you're better than even one person at the individual tasks or responsibilities your team does, you have work to do. And that work comes in 3 different forms. The first is training. Training is all about transferring information and knowledge and resources into the hands of somebody so that they can be successful on their own. Development is where you help unlock their application of themselves, their unique skills, talents, personality, drive, whatever it might be, to the job description so that they flourish in that role and you've really unlocked their potential. And retention is all about helping those people find alignment between the skills they've developed and the long-term direction they're trying to go with their life. Those are the 3 forms of work you need to do to stack a team with rock stars. Now, if all you ever do is training, well, you're probably not going to end up with a lot of people that are better than you are. Their ceiling is pretty low without that second step. But if you do get good at developing talent, well, then you'll have unlocked their potential. Unfortunately, if that's all you do, well, you'll watch that talent flee your team, maybe to go get paid more money by one of your competitors or something. But if you can nail all 3, if you can train them, develop their talent, and help them find alignment between the skills they're developing and their long-term goals in life, what you'll watch is that you don't have nearly as much turnover on your team. So that's how you end up stacking your team with rock stars that you've built along the way as you've leveled them up again and again. And that's the game the leaders really want to play. So perhaps in another episode, we'll dive deep into best practices for training. But in my experience, training isn't usually the limiting factor. Most companies are good at having a process for transferring the information and knowledge and resources that somebody needs in order to be successful. That's usually not the limiting factor. Developing talent, however, requires you to give somebody feedback and present them with an opportunity to change their performance, their attitude, their perception, their behavior, their habit in order to take the next step and level up. That happens in one of 3 ways. Either you'll observe them doing something and want to give them that feedback. That's the first mechanism. The second is when they request that feedback. You might have some people on your team that want feedback, obviously more than others. And the third is that they approach you in order to help them solve some sort of problem. Those are the 3 mechanisms you have to help people develop talent. And this is something that should be happening fairly frequently. This is something that you want to happen regularly with the people that you lead. Now, in the first 2 mechanisms, either you giving feedback or them requesting feedback, the same thing is happening. It's just a function of who begins the conversation. And you might take a second and go back and review the episode before this about enrollment so that you can learn how to start that conversation so they have the most open ears and are most likely to go drive change. And this is something that self-perpetuates. The more you give helpful feedback to people, the more they realize they can get helpful feedback from you, the more they want it, and this accelerates itself. This is something that should have a fairly normal rhythm in your business. I don't know if it's appropriate for it to be weekly or monthly or quarterly or whatever it might be for you. You'll find your own rhythm, but suffice to say you need to have a rhythm. If you don't have one, you need to start now. In fact, that's my challenge to you in this episode. Take a second. If you don't have an opportunity to give somebody feedback this week or this month, you need to set the stage for that to happen. But the real acceleration comes not from giving feedback in this way, though this is really important. It really comes when you get good at helping people level up before they go and do something, whenever they were asking you for help. And if you're excited for this next part, that's a pretty good sign that you might want to subscribe and come back for more episodes. We all learn best when something feels organic, natural, authentic, when it really fits. And unfortunately, these feedback sessions I described, even if you do them with a regular cadence and rhythm and try to make it as natural as possible, they just never quite feel that way. Which means there's a ceiling on how much your people are going to take out of those conversations with you. And also, this type of feedback always happens after an event occurred. The feedback you're going to give them, they just missed the opportunity to go and apply it. They might have to wait days or weeks or months before they can go apply the feedback that you're giving them. So there isn't a natural feel to it, and there's also not a natural rhythm that lets them immediately go put it to use. So what we want to do is get ahead of it as much as possible. And every single one of you lives in a culture where people might come up to you and ask you for help. How do I do this? What should I do about that? This might happen to you daily, weekly, monthly, minutely, I don't know. But the point is, you're regularly being asked for help and support in certain ways in your business. This is the best way for you to help people level up naturally, organically, and authentically. We call it 60-second coaching. And it sounds something like this. If you were to come to me to ask me for help, my response to you would be exactly like this every single time. Hey, thanks for bringing this to me. Yeah, look, I have a couple ideas, and I'm happy to share them with you. But reality is, you're probably closer to this one than I am, and I trust you. Like, what's your opinion? How are you thinking about it? Now, there are 3 parts to that. That might sound very simple, and it is very simple, but it's not always the easiest to do. The first part is that I want to reassure you I do have my own ideas and solutions. I don't want you to feel like I'm just going to parrot whatever you say. I want you to know I've got your back through this. But the second part is I want to build you up a little bit. I want to help you realize you probably do have good ideas and solutions here. Now look, if you don't trust the person, don't say, I trust you. Don't lie to people. It's got to be authentic. But you can always find a way to build somebody up. Hey, you've had the problem 5 minutes longer than I've had. You've probably had at least one idea about it. Maybe start there. Share with me what you've got and I'll pick it up. That would be a good way to go about it. And the third part is that you need to ask this person for their opinion of their idea. If you say, well, how are you going to fix it? What's your solution? You're probably going to get people who are afraid to share their real ideas with you because they're afraid they're bad. So there's a warmness to how you ask this. Yeah, what's your idea? How might you think about that? And then whatever they say next, your job is just to help them level up their own ideas. They're going to give you a brilliant idea, a terrible idea, or something in between. And if it's a brilliant idea, you might not have much to add, just reassure them. If it's a terrible idea, you might need to be directive and actually walk them through the appropriate steps. But more often than not, it's going to land in the middle. And your job is to ask 1 or 2 good open-ended questions to help them level up their thinking. You might ask, when would be the right time for you to focus on that? Or how much time do you think that's going to take? What format do you think that needs to be in? Who do you need to partner with in order to make that happen? How are you going to overcome X issue that I know is coming because I've done this forever? Those types of open-ended questions are going to accelerate their thinking a little bit. And by asking them, they're going to know next time they should consider those types of things. And if you do this consistently, where they come to you, you build them up, you get them to talk first, and you level up their ideas, you will have built in the most natural, automatic, authentic way to develop talent for your team. And this is the type of thing that they get to go put to use right away, meaning their own feedback loop. They're, hey, that worked really well. I do have good ideas. Or, hey, that didn't work so well. This problem's what I need to overcome next time. You tighten up the feedback loop dramatically when you do it before the action that they need to go and take. Now look, if you have done this a lot, if you'd had a lot of experience in these conversations, you would know what to say and do when they push back on you. When they say, can't you just tell me? Or I only bring you the difficult ones, which you know you're going to hear. And that's actually what we do in the programs that we run in the Language of Leadership. We help leaders practice these most difficult conversations beforehand so that you're prepared when the moment's right. And by the way, the moment is always right for talent development. When you get good at this, you rapidly accelerate the quality of the ideas and solutions that your team is deploying for your company. You're raising the ceiling of team performance here. Because remember, you should have hired people with the potential to be better than you are at these jobs. That's what you can start to experience. And it's really going to accelerate your understanding of who's never going to be there. Sometimes it's really good to know when someone on your team's never going to be a rock star. That doesn't mean you have to get rid of them. It's just healthy to recognize that that's never going to happen with that individual. But for everybody else, this is how you develop talent. You give them feedback consistently by enrolling them in the conversations with a regular rhythm and cadence. And every time they seek your support or your help, you help them come up with their own ideas and you level up their own ideas before they go out and deploy them. If you take a few minutes and prepare yourself before these conversations, you'll know exactly exactly how to handle them, and you'll do an incredible job of it, and you'll be blown away by the level of talent that's already on your team. Now look, if you're starting to wonder like, okay, how do I retain these people? Well, we're gonna talk about that in the next episode, which if you're excited for that, take a second, subscribe to the channel, come back next week. I'll see you then.